Hi, hello and welcome. Welcome to my worst video idea yet, which is recording while I have COVID. That's right, it's Positive Tuesday, it's Friday by now, so I've been suffering from it for the last couple of days. You can probably hear my voice being a bit more nasally, but I wanted to put something out there again. What we're gonna do today is real nice and simple. We're headed over to Sporkle. Well, we're already at Sporkle, and we're gonna complete some quizzes. Sporkle, if you don't know, is one of the largest trivia quiz websites out there. People can create their own quizzes. A bunch of them are related to geography, for example. I think that's the most well-known category of Sporkle quizzes, where you have like an empty map and you have to, for example, mention where the states in the USA are, or mention capitals in Europe, stuff like that. What I wanted to do is look at some Sporkle quizzes related to my field of work or my field of studying, or well, both almost, and that is psychology. So I just took the first one that mentioned the word psychology, which is right here. Can you match the parts of these psychology related names and terms? By MT Wiz. Let's see what this has to offer. No idea what this is gonna be about, but we will just power through together. What is this? Alright, so we need to match the things on the left to the things on the right. What I see immediately is bipolar disorder with the mood swings, where you switch between being manic and being depressive. We have Broca's, which is area. That's an area in your brain related to language processing. We have bulimia, then we are looking for nervosa in that case, because that is the name of an eating disorder characterized by binge eating. We have critical, probably critical thinking, very, very expertise psychology concept right there. Ivan Pavlov, it's probably what they're looking for, one of the most well-known researchers in psychology. B.F. Skinner. Pavlov is the one that discovered classic conditioning. Everybody probably knows him with the bells and the dog and stuff. B.F. Skinner, a bit well-known, a bit less well-known, I should say. Behavioral psychologist that looked into animal psychology and looked at operant conditioning, the other side of things, which is rewards that empower behaviors, make that the behavior increase. Central nervous system, which is the name for your brain and your spine, or well, your spine nerves. I missed the correct term for now, but classical conditioning, that's what Pavlov did. There it is, right up there. Conditioned response, probably. Conditioned response, that is an element of classical conditioning. The conditioned response is the response that the conditioned stimulus emits, or well, elicits. That's the right word, elicits after the conditioning procedure. So for Pavlov's example, it is salivating in the dogs when they hear the bell, because they learned that that bell is related to food. Defense mechanisms, alright, interesting. Phenomenon in psychiatry, in therapy most of the time. Therapy is the correct term. For example, splitting in borderline personality disorders. People use that to defend themselves against harsh conditions. Parallel parking, of course not. Probably parallel processing, right? Absolutely. Doing multiple tasks at the same time. Crystallized intelligence. We have crystallized and fluid intelligence. Crystallized intelligence is more about like language, facts, history. Fluid intelligence is more about reasoning, inference, and math. Maths is a big one as well. And just processing things, working memory tasks. Hierarchy of needs by Maslow. Rorschach test. Oh, Inkblot test, alright. Self actualization, the highest property in that hierarchy of needs by Maslow. William James, surely, and I think he is a behaviorist, but I'm not sure. I think so. Perceptual set, probably, but I don't know what that is. Margaret Floyd Washburn, no idea who that is. Locus of control, type A, perceptual set. Type A is a type of personality. Alright, well, 100%, that was easy enough. It felt nice that I could like give some explanation about some of the topics. I'm gonna look up who Margaret Floyd Washburn is. Margaret Floyd Washburn is apparently a leading psychology researcher of the 20th century, and she focused on animal behaviors. She was the first female researcher to receive a PhD in the field of psychology, if I read that correctly. And William James is apparently more a philosopher, but he teaches psychology, and he is considered as one of the founding fathers of American psychology. So those are two things that I learned, and maybe a bunch of other things you learned as well today. Let's look at one more quiz. That was fun though, that was nice. Alright, number 2 of the same type. If it works, don't change it. The same author, MT Wiz. Let's just see what the second quiz has to offer. I think we're gonna get 100% again. We're definitely gonna go for that. Abraham Lincoln. No, that's not true. It's Abraham Maslow, the person we talked about earlier. Alfred Hitchcock, also not true. Is it Alfred Binet? I think it is, but I'm gonna leave that for a while. Anorexia nervosa is, of course, the other eating disorder, the more well-known one, where people really lose a lot of weight. Autism spectrum disorder, probably. Or autism quotient is what they're looking for. No. Spectrum, it's right there. Oh, I'm so blind. I'm not gonna reset. Deja vu, of course, a very well-known psychological phenomenon. Deja vu, of course, a very well-known psychological phenomenon. Free association, a technique used by psychodynamic therapists where the client does most of the work and he just keeps on talking and he is freely associating between topics in his mind. Dissociative anxiety disorder, not sure. Nature versus nurture, of course, that decides almost all things in psychology, like personality traits. They are defined by nature, so your biology and your genes, and nurture, your environment and your upbringing. Operant conditioning, the one Skinner focuses on with rewards for behavior that we want to increase. Sigmund Freud, well-known figure. Übermensch talks about ego and stuff, talks about the Oedipus complex, about falling in love with your parents. Retrograde amnesia, problems with remembering things from way in the past. Positive reinforcement, probably. These things are alphabetically ordered. That makes it a lot easier. Intelligence quotient. Yeah, alright. But autism quotient. Quotient? Autism quotient, I don't know how to pronounce it in English, definitely not like that, but I can just blame it on my nasal cavities being blocked, is a questionnaire, a very well-known questionnaire developed to inspect whether a person is suffering from autism spectrum from autism or not. Hindsight is 2020. Hindsight perspective is probably, or bias maybe. Let's leave that for now. Generalized anxiety disorder characterized by excessive worrying. Evolutionary perspective? Maybe. Let's see. Group therapy speaks for itself. Dissociative identity disorder, where you have multiple personalities. Evolutionary perspective, it's gonna have to be, right? Frontal lobes, the frontal part of your brain right here. The prefrontal cortex controls things like planning, inhibition. It's gonna be hindsight bias. Echoic, I don't know what this is, echoic memory. And I believe it's Alfred Binet and Jean Piaget, but we did get one mistake because of me being more knowledgeable than the test suspected me to be, probably. No, me just being stupid, because the first thing I said was autism spectrum disorder, but I immediately jumped to quotient. Intelligence quotient. Quotient. The pronunciation I was using was based way too much on the Dutch pronunciation, which is quotient. I can't even do it in Dutch right now. Intelligentie quotient. Intelligentie quotient. In English, it's quotient. Alright, intelligence quotient. The more you know. Didn't do too bad. Let's do one more, maybe. This is fun, because this is something I know some things about, you know, so it's a really fun type of quiz. Sometimes you have these quizzes where you're just completely lost. Psychology multiple choice, interesting, just like all of my exams. Let's finish off strong with this one. 15, let's go for at least 13 out of 15. Who is referred to as the father of psychoanalysis? That is, of course, Sigmund Freud. This is the father of cognitive behavioral therapy, or one of the founding fathers. This is the founding father of humanistic therapy, or client-centered therapy. And then these two are related to psychoanalysis or psychodynamic therapy, but Freud is definitely considered as more of the father. What area of the brain is most involved with planning action and predicting consequences? I just told you guys, the frontal lobe. Planning is the frontal lobe. Memory used to remember events of one's own life. That is the episodic memory, of course, one's own life. Thinking about one's own thoughts is metacognition. Meta is like over something, because meta communication is also talking with your client about the communication you two are having. So it's like an extra stream of information over the interaction between you two, and metacognition is just like that, about your own cognition, your own thoughts. Cognitive bias, tendency to believe information even if it's false after repeated exposure. Believe information even if it's false after repeated exposure. That has to be illusory truth effect, but I haven't really heard of it, or at least not in English, but that is correct. Qualitative data. Qualitative is like not related to numbers or well, the thing you think about data when you think about data, like questionnaire results all in numbers and graphs and diagrams. Qualitative data is more interviews and open questions and stuff like that. So a Likert scale is qualitative data. because that is like a score between 1 and 7, or is it 1 and 5? I believe Likert is originally 1 to 7, but I'm not sure. I'll look it up. It's definitely that though. Very stupid of me. I was thinking about quantitative. I was confusing the two topics, but I think from the explanation you heard what I was talking about, right? But either way, doesn't matter. We can still go with 14 out of 15. Which of the following is not a stage of moral development? Oh, I do not know these in English, but I presume it's gonna be unconventional. First stage of development is, it's either sensory motor or pre-operational. I believe it's gonna be sensory motor, right? Yes, sir. Which of the following mental illnesses actually appears in a DSM? Bipolar definitely does. Psychopathic might not. This is not gonna be actually appear. Read the questions, read the questions, read the questions, read the questions, read the questions. Therapy that involves families, that is of course system therapy. Which of these books is set primarily in a psychiatric hospital? Oh, yeah, definitely. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It was also made into a movie with Jack Nicholson, if I'm not mistaken. Speech production. Oh, here we go. It's one of these two, and one is understanding and one is production. But of course, I know that Wernicke is about production. Not doing so great. Not a neurotransmitter. So, read the question. Not a neurotransmitter. Chlorine is not a neurotransmitter. Difficulty sleeping, irritability, it can all be symptoms of depression, that's for sure. Cut the video. Which term describes someone who is competitive, deadline focused, and proactive? See, these are the type of personalities I talked about, but it's something I saw in my second bachelor year and we never talked about it again, so I have no idea. But it is, of course, type B. Not great, not great. That's not great at all. We're not gonna finish off on that, right? Give me one more quiz that I can do so that I feel good about myself. Can you pick the answers that fit into each category? I sure hope I can. That's a lot of questions, but only in 5. Okay, let's just do this. Alright, we are going for 50 out of 5 at least. Psychological disorders. ADHD is definitely a disorder. Anxiety is one as well, but I don't know if they... Bipolar disorder, definitely one. Clinical depression. What? Borderline personality disorder, that's for sure. Dissociative identity disorder, of course. Then we also have Munchausen syndrome, which is a disorder where you kind of fake your illness. Schizophrenia, definitely a disorder as well. Alright, how many do we have? We only have 6 and we need 4 more. Well, then ADHD is definitely gonna be one. Anxiety is gonna be one as well. And then we miss 2. Well, anterograde amnesia, that's not gonna be like a disorder. Oh, right here, antisocial personality disorder. And there's probably one more we are just looking over. Cymbalta, I have no idea what Cymbalta is. Hawthorne effect, health, industrial. There has to be one more. That OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. There we go. 9 branches of psychology. That's a weird question if you ask me, but biopsychology is definitely gonna be one. Clinical psychology, educational psychology, developmental psychology, cognitive psychology, forensic psychology, health psychology, industrial psychology. Never heard of that, but it's probably gonna be an option, right? Let's leave it for now. Social psychology, surely. What else? What else? It's gonna be industrial, right? But I haven't heard about it. Famous psychologists. We have Skinner. We have Maslow. We have Piaget, Pavlov. We have Ray Charles, Steven Tyler. Never heard of them. Wundt for sure. Freud for sure. And we need only 2 more. Carl Jung and Carl Rogers, I would presume. Yes. Psychological experiments. Well, that is definitely gonna be, oh yeah, conformity study where people were gaslit. They thought they had like the right answer, but everyone around them chose a different answer and laughed at them, even though they actually had the right answer. And you can see that they sort of started like developing a different tendency in answering. Little Albert experiment where fear conditioning was first developed. Milgram experiment where people delivered electric shocks to other people. Monster study, don't know what that is. Stanford prison study. Pavlov's dogs. And then one more. The bell jar. Oh, I don't know. 6 antidepressants. Well, it's probably gonna be Cymbalta, not Ambien. Effexor is one, I know that. Prozac is definitely one. Zoloft is definitely one. Sonata? No. 5 books. Well, it's probably gonna be this. For famous patients, I am at a complete loss. Sedatives, alright. So these are gonna be, mm, oh, oh, it's falling apart. Anterograde and retrograde amnesia. One controversial debate. Nature versus nurture. Alright, whew, that was difficult. 50 out of 55, exactly what we were looking for. We did know quite a lot of them, but not all of them. Especially like the patients from the hospitals and the books. I didn't know any of the books as well. Lunesta is a sedative. I don't know medication. I don't need to know medication for my psychology training. Only psychiatrists can prescribe medication. The Hawthorne effect, I wouldn't describe that as an experiment, right? The effect is the result from the experiment, no? If you're wondering what it is, the Hawthorne effect, it is like this study in a factory where they were kind of trying to look at whether certain lighting had an effect on production efficiency in the workers there. And it was discovered that just doing the research and therefore paying attention to the workers already made them work more efficiently. But yeah, that was short and sweet, right? Very interesting. It's fun to display some of my knowledge. I don't mind getting things wrong as well, because that is how I learn, of course, and I hope you learned at least one or two things from it. If you have to remember one thing from this, try to remember Carl Rogers. He is a very, very important person in the humanistic, client-centered forms of therapy. He is like the founding father of it, and he is an important person in my life in the future for when I become that kind of therapist, probably. And also, he writes some nice books. Becoming Human, very interesting book, very real and very, very human, right? All right. Carl Rogers, remember the name. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. I might do something like this again because it's a lot of fun. Bye bye.